Emily Carter felt the air change before the evening even began. Maple Ridge, her quiet town in Oregon, had a way of telling her when something was off. And that night, the breeze carried a strange heaviness she couldn't ignore. She was used to calm days, slow afternoons, and gentle evenings, especially since her husband passed away a few years earlier. Life had settled into a steady rhythm, predictable and quiet. But on that particular night, something pulled at her attentions, something she couldn't quite name. She told herself it was nothing, that she was reading too much into the little things. Yet every sound felt louder, every moment felt sharper, and her heart beat just a little too fast for no real reason. The sun had dipped low, leaving a soft gray sky with streaks of fading pink. Emily stood on her porch, watering the roses that lined the railing. They were roses Daniel, her son-in-law, had helped her plant during spring. He had shown up that day with a bag of soil, gardening gloves, and the patient smile that always made Emily feel seen. He worked quietly, asking about her day, her health, her sleep. While she tried not to feel emotional about how much she appreciated his visits, she had always liked Daniel. He was gentle, steady, respectful, and no matter how busy life became, he always remembered to check on her. That alone made him special. But lately, she noticed a shadow behind his smiles, something distant, something tired. She had also noticed changes in her daughter, Ashley. The once bright spark in her voice had grown dim. She came home late, sighed more than she spoke, and often avoided eye contact. Emily never pried, but she wasn't blind. She knew when silence meant something. She knew when two people who once fit perfectly together began drifting apart. And that was what kept her uneasy that evening. She wasn't expecting visitors, but she found herself listening for footsteps. She wasn't planning on company, but every few minutes she checked the driveway without meaning to. Maybe it was Mother's intuition. Or maybe it was just loneliness whispering to her. But something told her the night wasn't going to be ordinary. She set down the watering can and wiped her hands on her jeans when she heard the soft crunch of tires on gravel. A car slowed near her house, headlights briefly sweeping across the porch. She looked up just in time to see a familiar figure stepping out, a tall shape, dark jacket, hands tucked into pockets as if trying to hold himself together. It was Daniel. He closed the car door gently, almost too gently, and hesitated before walking towards her. Behind him, parked at the curb, was another car filled with his friends. 4 of them, windows rolled down, music playing low. They were laughing, talking over each other, clearly ready for whatever plans they had made for the night. But Daniel wasn't joining their laughter. He wasn't even looking at them. He was looking at Emily. "Daniel," she said, surprised but relieved to see him. "Is everything okay?" He gave a small smile, but it didn't touch his eyes. His eyes looked tired, weighed down by something heavy he was trying to hide. "Hi, Emily," he said softly. "Do you have a minute?" The way he asked, quiet, uncertain, told her everything. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And he didn't know where else to go. "Of course," she said, stepping aside to let him in. "Come in." Daniel walked inside, but his steps were slow, hesitant, like he wasn't sure he should be there. The living room was warm, lit by the soft glow of a lamp that Emily kept on in the evenings. It wasn't much, but it made the house feel less empty. Daniel stayed standing near the entrance, rubbing his hands together, staring at the floor as if looking for the right words. "I didn't mean to show up like this," he said quietly. "I know it's late." "It's not too late for you," Emily replied gently. "Talk to me, Daniel. What's happening?" He looked up, meeting her eyes. For the first time she saw the truth. He had been carrying uncertainty, sadness, worry, all tangled together. He looked like a man who had been trying to stay strong for too long, I think. He began, voice low, "I think Ashley and I are losing each other." Emily felt her heart pinch. She had sensed it, but hearing him say it made it real in a way she wasn't ready for. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "I told my friends I'd go out with them tonight. They wanted to take me out, help me distract myself. But the truth is, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to pretend I'm okay." He glanced toward the window where his friends waited in the car. "They think I'm just stressed from work," he said. But it's not that. It's what's happening at home. Or what's not happening. Emily guided him to the sofa and sat beside him. He looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that wasn't physical but emotional. We barely talk anymore, Daniel continued. When we do, it's tense, cold. Sometimes it feels like we're living in the same house but in different worlds. I don't know what I did wrong. I keep trying to fix things, but every time I take a step toward her, she takes 2 steps back. Emily listened carefully. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She didn't take sides. She simply listened, the way people do when they understand that listening is the first step toward healing. Have you talked to her about how you feel? She asked gently. Daniel sighed. I try, but she shuts down, or gets defensive, or says she's tired. And maybe she is. Maybe she's overwhelmed. I just miss her. I miss us. Emily placed a hand on his arm. Marriage goes through seasons, Daniel. Some are bright and easy. Some are heavy. What matters is that you still command you do. That's clear. He nodded, though his shoulders didn't relax. There was a long silence. Then he said something that surprised her. I came here tonight because you always understand. You never judge me. And I needed to talk to someone who sees me as family, not as a burden. Emily felt tears rise, but she blinked them back. You're never a burden to me. For a moment, Daniel looked younger, vulnerable in a way Emily rarely saw. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. But before Emily could say more, the crunch of tires sounded again. Another car pulled into the driveway fast, sharp, as if the driver had rushed there with a purpose. Emily turned toward the porch window, her heart sinking when she saw who stepped out. Ashley. Her daughter closed the car door harder than necessary. Her hair was slightly messy, her eyes wide, her expression tight, not angry. Exactly. But panicked, suspicious, maybe even hurt. She looked at the house as if she feared she was walking into something she wasn't prepared for. Daniel froze. Ashley froze. And Emily felt the air tighten between all 3 of them. Ashley walked quickly toward the house, her expression guarded but emotional. Something had driven her here, something urgent enough to bring her back so quickly. Emily didn't know whether to step outside or stay still. But as Ashley reached the porch, her voice called out, Daniel. The way she said his name was filled with layers, confusion, worry, maybe jealousy, maybe fear of losing him. It was a tone Emily hadn't heard in a long time. Daniel stood up slowly, unsure of what to expect. I didn't know you were here, Ashley said, her eyes flicking between her husband and her mother. Why didn't you tell me? Daniel opened his mouth, but the words didn't come. His friends, noticing Ashley, fell silent in the car. The evening breeze settled, heavy and still. Emily watched them both, her heart pulled in 2 directions. She could feel the moment trembling, ready to tip towards something painful or something healing, but she didn't know which. Ashley stopped on the porch, her chest tight, her mind racing. She hadn't expected to find Daniel here. Not tonight, not in this moment. She saw him standing by the sofa, shoulders tense, hands clasped together as if holding himself upright against invisible weight. Emily, calm and quiet, sat nearby, sensing the storm between them and giving space without interference. Ashley's eyes softened as she noticed Daniel's expression, anxious and undeniably sincere. For a moment, everything around them, the night, the distant laughter of his friends, even the soft wind brushing the leaves, felt suspended. She wasn't angry. She was worried. Terribly worried in a way she hadn't allowed herself to admit. The realization hit her hard. She missed him. She missed the warmth, the laughter, the easy conversations that had defined their early days of marriage. But she had also felt frustrated, unappreciated, and unsure if he even noticed. And tonight, she realized that Daniel's quiet arrival might be the key to fixing what had been quietly breaking between them. Daniel, she said softly, almost a whisper, but enough to break the silence. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying emotions she had tried to hold back. Daniel looked up, eyes meeting hers, and something unspoken passed between them, a mix of guilt, longing, and hope. He nodded slowly, his lips pressed together, Not because he had nothing to say, but because he wasn't sure where to start. Words felt fragile in the air. Emily finally spoke, her voice gentle, grounding. "Why don't you both sit down? Talk. There's no hurry, no one else to listen. Just honesty." Her calm tone created a safe space, a buffer from the uncertainty and tension that had been building for weeks. Daniel moved to the sofa first, and Ashley followed. Her movements careful, deliberate, as though crossing invisible lines she didn't want to break. They sat facing each other, a small distance separating them. The space heavy with unsaid words. Daniel exhaled, a long, quiet breath that seemed to carry the weight of weeks. "Ashley, I didn't mean to hide anything. I know things have been rough. I know we've drifted. And I'm sorry." His voice cracked slightly, a rare show of vulnerability. Ashley's eyes softened. She had missed the real Daniel behind the polite, responsible exterior. She had missed him trying, struggling, caring enough to admit his mistakes. "I've been trying to," she said, her voice low. "But I didn't know how to reach you. You seemed distant, like you were always somewhere else. And I got frustrated thinking you didn't care. But I did. I still do." Her hand hovered near his, unsure if she could bridge the distance physically, emotionally, or both. Daniel reached slowly, taking her hand in his. Their fingers intertwined, tentative at first. Then firmer as warmth and familiarity returned. Daniel looked at Emily briefly, a silent nod of gratitude. She smiled softly, returning to her quiet observance, letting the couple reclaim their space in conversation. The room felt lighter already, the heaviness of weeks slowly lifting. Daniel spoke again, his voice steadier this time. "I went out tonight with my friends in mind, but I couldn't. I realized I couldn't keep escaping our problems. I wanted to talk to you first. I wanted to try fixing this." Ashley felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had feared that Daniel no longer cared, that the spark they once had faded for good. But here he was, vulnerable, honest, showing her that he hadn't given up. I want that too," she admitted. "I want us back. Not perfect, not the way we were, but together, for the first time in weeks." Daniel smiled, small but genuine. Relief spread across his face as he realized that their connection wasn't gone, just buried under misunderstandings, unspoken frustrations, and the daily grind. He pulled her hand closer, leaning in slightly, careful not to rush anything, but eager to bridge the emotional gap that had formed. Ashley responded, leaning her head gently on his shoulder, feeling the warmth she had missed. Daniel wrapped his arm around her, not possessively, but protectively, a quiet promise that he was there, fully present. The tension between them dissolved slowly, replaced by an emotional intimacy that had been absent for too long. Emily watched them quietly, feeling a sense of peace settle in the room. She had seen many couples struggle, many relationships falter under pressure. And she recognized this moment as a turning point. It wasn't magical or perfect, but it was real. It was honest. It was the kind of moment that could heal years of distance if nurtured with patience and care. Daniel spoke again, quieter this time, as if afraid the fragile moment might break with loud words. "I've been afraid to admit how much I've missed this. Missed you. Missed us." Ashley tightened her hold, feeling her own heart respond. The vulnerability between them created a bond stronger than any argument or misunderstanding. For once, they weren't defending themselves. They were simply existing together, emotionally aligned. The evening continued with long, quiet conversation. They didn't rush. They spoke about small things. First, work, neighbors. The weather slowly letting the ease of everyday life remind them why they had fallen in love in the first place. Then, carefully, they spoke about the bigger issues, misunderstandings, unmet expectations, and the ways they had unintentionally hurt each other. Every sentence was careful but honest. Every word was a step toward understanding, toward reconnecting. At one point, Daniel smiled, a little embarrassed. "I almost went with my friends tonight. I didn't want to face this, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I came here first." Ashley laughed softly, a sound that had been missing from their home for weeks. Me too. You coming home tonight was the right choice, she said. The words hung in the air, simple but loaded with meaning. Hours passed unnoticed. The night deepened outside, but inside the room felt warm, safe, and alive. They spoke about dreams, shared worries, even joked quietly at small memories only they understood. Each laugh, each gentle touch, each word of reassurance strengthened the fragile bridge they were rebuilding. Emily eventually made tea for all of them, a quiet act that added comfort and grounded the evening. She didn't interfere, didn't push, didn't advise. She simply created a supportive presence that allowed them to heal naturally at one point. Ashley looked at Daniel and said, "I think we forgot how to just be us." Daniel nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "We did, but we can remember. Slowly, carefully, together." There was no rush, no expectation, just presence, just connection. It was the kind of intimacy that didn't need words, only trust and patience. By the time Daniel's friends returned from wherever they had gone, they found the car empty. They called softly, concerned, but Daniel didn't answer immediately. He and Ashley stayed inside, wrapped in conversation, slowly rediscovering the warmth and familiarity that had drawn them together in the first place. Emily smiled quietly, proud of the courage both had shown. They hadn't solved everything, but they had taken the first, most important step toward rebuilding trust and closeness. The night grew late. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint sounds of distant cars and the quiet hum of the town. Inside, the living room was filled with soft light, warm tea, and the lingering sense of hope. Ashley leaned her head back on Daniel's shoulder, feeling the tension leave her body. Daniel rested his cheek against her hair, feeling the same release. Words weren't necessary anymore. Their closeness spoke volumes. Finally, Daniel glanced at Emily, silently acknowledging her role in creating the space for their reconciliation. She gave him a small, encouraging nod, and he returned to Ashley, focusing entirely on the woman he had almost lost. They spoke quietly about plans for tomorrow. Little things that mattered but felt significant: home projects, weekend errands, small gestures of care. Nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated, normal life, slowly blending back into the rhythm of togetherness. Before Ashley finally stood to leave for the night, she hugged Daniel tightly, feeling the solidity of his presence and the renewed connection between them. Daniel held her just as firmly, silently promising that he wouldn't let them drift apart again. Emily watched them, heart full, feeling that something important had been mended. Not magically, but with care and honesty. The night ended quietly. Ashley left, promising to call tomorrow, and Daniel finally stepped outside to greet the cool air. Emily followed him to the door, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You did the right thing tonight," she said softly. Daniel nodded, a smile touching his lips. "I know, and I couldn't have done it without your support." As he walked toward the street, Emily watched him join the faint shadows of his friends waiting a few blocks away. They didn't laugh loudly or make a scene. They understood something unspoken had changed. Daniel was present, grounded, ready to face tomorrow with Ashley, with hope. And with a newfound determination inside, Emily closed the door slowly, leaning against it for a moment. She smiled softly, thinking about how sometimes the plans we cancel, the nights we rethink, and the conversations we almost avoid are the ones that change everything. She could feel peace settling in her chest, the kind of deep, quiet peace that comes from seeing love, effort, and understanding win over misunderstanding and distance. And in the silence of the night, the gentle hum of Maple Ridge streets, the warm light of the living room, and the quiet hearts of three people, something simple but powerful remained. Love could survive.